The massive ship called Asterisk, Seasonal Observer Asterisk, hung in Earth's orbit like a silver leaf. Its shining hull reflected the blue planet below. After years of distant messages between worlds, today was the day aliens would meet humans face to face. Captain Vix stood tall on the bridge. Her scales shimmered with greens and blues as she looked at the planet. As the leader of the first contact team from the Galactic Council, she had studied humans for months, but something about their numbers didn't make sense. "Final check on the landing team," she ordered, her voice low and calm. Officer Dern nodded. "All ready, Captain. The pods will reach the meeting point in 30 minutes. Vix flicked her tail. "Remember, we are guests here. We observe, we learn, we share. Nothing more." At the landing site, Dr. Tom Miller checked his watch again. The government had picked him to lead the welcome team because of his work in alien biology. Not that anyone had met aliens before, but his guesses about life on other worlds had been good enough. "They're coming," said Dr. Reed, pointing to the sky. 5 small ships broke through the clouds, each one round and smooth like perfect stones. Tom took a deep breath. Here we go. History in the making. The ships landed in a perfect circle on the open field. Steam hissed from their sides as doors slid open. And then they appeared. The aliens were tall, most around 7 feet. They walked on 2 legs but had scales instead of skin. Their eyes were large and golden, with slits for pupils like cats. Leading them was one with blue-green scales and a metal band around its neck. Tom stepped forward. "Welcome to Earth. I am Dr. Tom Miller, representing humanity." The lead alien placed a hand on its chest. The hand had 4 long fingers with small claws. "I am Captain Vix of the Asterisk, Seasonal Observer Asterisk, sent by the Galactic Council. We come in peace and curiosity." Tom smiled. "We have prepared a place to talk and share knowledge." Inside the meeting hall, humans and aliens sat across from each other. The air felt heavy with importance. "Your world is very—" Vix paused, searching for the right word. "Crowded." Tom nodded. "We have about 8 billion people now." Vix's eyes widened. 8 billion. On one planet. How is this possible? "We've spread to most parts of Earth. Some places have more people than others." Vix looked at the data pad in her hand. "Our records show humans have only been using technology for a few thousand years. Your numbers should not be this high." Tom wasn't sure what to say. "We've grown quickly, yes." The alien team whispered among themselves. Something seemed to bother them. "Perhaps we can discuss your planet's history," Tom suggested, trying to move past the awkward moment. For the next few hours, they shared basic facts about their worlds. The aliens told of the Galactic Council with its 200-member species. Humans shared Earth's diverse life forms and cultures. But Vix kept returning to questions about human numbers and growth. "How often do humans reproduce?" she finally asked. "It varies," Tom said. "Some have many children. Some have none." Vix nodded, but her eyes showed confusion. Later, alone in her private room on the ship, Vix sent an urgent message to the Council. "First contact successful," she reported. "Humans are welcoming and eager to join galactic community, but there is something very strange about these beings. Their population numbers do not match any natural growth patterns we know. I request permission to study their reproductive biology in detail. There is something they are not telling us, or perhaps something they do not realize is unusual. Either way, I believe this requires further investigation." She paused, then added, "There may be more to humans than we expected." 3 days after first contact, the aliens sent their cultural expert to join the human science team. Officer K had studied many species across the galaxy and was known for her skill in understanding new cultures. K looked similar to Captain Vix, but her scales were a soft orange color that seemed to change shade in different lights. She carried a small device that helped her record everything she learned. "I am happy to work with you," Kay said to Dr. Tom and the other humans. "My job is to learn how humans live." Tom smiled. We have a lot to share. Let's start with a tour of our research building. As they walked, Kay noticed pictures on the walls showing people with small humans. What are these small ones? She asked. Those are children, Dr. Lisa Reed explained. That's Dr. Wilson's family photo. His wife just had a baby last month. Kay stopped walking. Last month. But it's not breeding season. The humans looked at each other with confusion. We don't have a breeding season, Lisa said. Humans can have babies any time of year. Kay stared at her. Any time. But how do you know when to mate? Tom coughed, feeling a bit awkward. Well, we don't have set times. People can choose when they want to have children. Kay's orange scales darkened slightly. You choose. Later that day, the humans and Kay sat in the break room having lunch. Two young researchers were talking about their weekend plans. I have a date on Saturday, said Rob, a tall man with curly hair. Third date with the same girl. His friend Mike asked with a grin. Rob nodded. Yes, and I think this one might be special. Kay leaned toward Tom and whispered, What is a date? It's when two people who like each other spend time together, Tom explained. It's how humans get to know potential partners. Kay's eyes grew wide. You meet for mating all year round. The room suddenly went quiet. Everyone turned to look at Kay. Lisa put down her sandwich. I think there's a misunderstanding here. Dating isn't just about reproduction. It's about finding someone you care about, maybe for a long-term relationship. Kay's scales now turned a deep orange, almost red. But you can mate anytime, not just during a special season. Well, yes, Lisa said, trying to be professional. Human reproduction isn't tied to seasons. We can conceive children any time of the year. Kay stood up so quickly she knocked over her chair. I need to report this to Captain Vix. Please excuse me. She rushed out of the room, leaving the humans staring after her. What was that about? Rob asked. Tom shook his head. I'm not sure, but I think we just told her something very surprising. Back on the Seasonal Observer Kay burst into Captain Vix's office without waiting for permission. Captain, I have discovered something unbelievable about humans. Vix looked up from her reports. Calm yourself, officer. What has happened? The humans, Kay said, her voice shaking. They can mate any time they want. Vix's tail twitched. That's impossible. No species can. They can, Kay insisted. They don't have mating seasons. They choose when to reproduce. This explains their population numbers. Vix stood up slowly, her scales shifting to a dark blue. Are you absolutely certain of this information? Yes, Captain. They told me directly. They can reproduce year-round. And they seem to think this is normal. Vix turned to look out the window at the blue planet below. This changes everything. Call an emergency meeting of all department heads. She paused. And send a priority message to the council. They need to know what we're dealing with. Kay nodded and hurried out, still looking shocked. Vix remained at the window, her reflection showing in the glass. A species that can reproduce at will, she whispered. The implications are concerning. The meeting room on the Seasonal Observer was filled with nervous energy. All 12 department heads sat around a large round table, scales shifting colors as they waited for Captain Vix to speak. Vix stood at the head of the table, her posture stiff. By now, you've all heard Officer Kay's report about human reproduction. The ship's head doctor, Milt, raised a clawed hand. Is it really possible? No mating season at all. It appears to be true, Vix said. I've checked with 3 different human sources. They can mate and reproduce any time they choose. Murmurs filled the room. Some officers looked scared, others fascinated. Ront, the sociologist, tapped his claws on the table. This explains so much about their culture. Their constant focus on finding mates, their strange pair bonding rituals, their entertainment filled with mating references. What concerns me, Vix said, are the security implications. A species that can reproduce at will could potentially overwhelm any planet they settle on. Security Chief Grex nodded. In just a few thousand years, they'd gone from small tribes to billions. What happens when they have space travel like ours? They could fill the galaxy in a few generations. That's an exaggeration, Ront argued. Their population growth has actually slowed as they've developed. They seem to limit themselves. Kay spoke up. But they don't have to. That's the point. There's no natural control on when they can reproduce. The room fell silent as everyone considered this. We need more information, Vix finally said. The Council has ordered us to extend our mission and learn everything we can about humans. Should we tell them what we've discovered? Asked Communications Officer Lark. Vix shook her head. Not yet. Let's observe how this ability shapes their society. For now, we continue normal relations, but pay special attention to their reproductive behaviors. Back on Earth, Tom noticed something had changed. The aliens were acting differently around the humans. Have you noticed how they stare at couples? He asked Lisa as they walked through the research building. Lisa nodded. And did you see how Officer Dern almost fell over when he saw that pregnant researcher yesterday? Something strange is going on. They turned a corner and found Kay standing very still, watching two young interns talking closely in the hallway. The male intern touched the female's hand, and Kay's scales turned bright red. Kay, is everything okay? Tom asked. Kay jumped. Yes. Fine. All normal. She hurried away without another word. Tom looked at Lisa. That was weird. They've been weird ever since our lunch conversation about dating, Lisa said. I think something about human relationships bothers them. Later that day, Tom tried to ask Captain Vix about it during their scheduled meeting. Your crew seems uncomfortable around us lately, he said carefully. Vix's tail twitched. We are still adjusting to your world. Is there something about humans that concerns you? Tom pressed. Not concerns. Surprises, perhaps. Vix looked at her datapad, avoiding eye contact. Your biology is different from most species we know. Before Tom could ask more questions, Vix's communication device buzzed. She looked at it and stood up quickly. I must return to the ship. Council orders. She walked to the door, then paused. Dr. Miller, how many children can a human have in their lifetime? The question seemed odd, but Tom answered anyway. Well, the record is around 69 children for a woman, but that's extremely rare. Most people have 0 to 3 children these days. Vix's scales turned a dark blue. I see. Thank you for this information. After she left, Tom sat thinking. Why were the aliens so interested in human reproduction? What made them so uncomfortable? On the ship, Vix received the Council's latest message. Human reproductive capacity considered potential threat level 3. Continue observation. Prepare for possible quarantine recommendation. Vix sighed. Things were getting complicated. 1 week after the emergency meeting, the behavior of the alien crew had become even stranger. Some avoided humans completely. Others watched them with too much interest. It was making everyone uncomfortable. Whatever is going on, we need to fix it, Tom said to Lisa as they walked to the cafeteria. The whole first contact mission is at risk. In the cafeteria, they saw a perfect example of the problem. 2 human researchers, Jack and Mary, were eating lunch together. They were clearly a couple, sitting close and occasionally touching hands. Nearby, 3 aliens were watching them with expressions that looked like a mix of horror and fascination. This is getting ridiculous, Lisa whispered. When Jack leaned over and kissed Mary's cheek, one of the aliens made a choking sound and left the room in a hurry. That's it, Tom said. I'm going to talk to Kay right now. They found Kay in the library, reading human biology books with great focus. Kay, we need to talk, Tom said firmly. What's going on with your crew? Why is everyone acting so strange around us? Kay's scales turned a nervous yellow. I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do, Lisa said. Ever since our conversation about dating, your people have been treating us differently. Some look afraid, others won't stop staring. What happened? Kay stood up quickly, knocking over her chair. Nothing happened. Everything is normal. Kay, Tom said gently, we can't work together if there's this much tension. Please, tell us what's wrong. Kay looked around to make sure no other aliens were nearby. I can't say. Captain's orders. Is it something about human relationships? Lisa asked. Kay's scales turned bright red. I must go now. She hurried away, leaving Tom and Lisa more confused than ever. On the seasonal observer, the situation wasn't any better. Rumors about humans had spread through the entire crew. I heard they can mate every day if they want to, one engineer whispered to another. My cousin works with the council archives, said a security officer. He says humans are the only species in the known galaxy that can reproduce year-round. Captain Vix was losing control of her crew. Some were demanding to leave Earth immediately, calling humans dangerous. Others had become obsessively interested in human mating habits, requesting to join the research teams on the surface. Vix called Officer Ront to her office. This situation is getting out of hand, she said. Your job is to understand alien cultures. Help me fix this. Ront nodded. The problem is fear of the unknown, Captain. We've never encountered a species like humans before. Our own biology is so different that we're projecting our fears onto them. What do you suggest? We need more cultural exchange, not less, and we need to stop treating human reproduction as something scary or strange. Vix considered this. Very well. Set up a social event, something to help both sides understand each other better. The next day, humans and aliens gathered for what the humans called a party. There was food, music, and an awkward attempt at dancing. Things were going well until Jack and Mary arrived. They had just gotten engaged, and Mary was showing her ring to everyone. What is engaged? Asked an alien engineer. It means they're going to get married, explained Tom. And what is married? Asked another alien. It's when two people commit to being together and usually start a family, Lisa said. The room went completely silent. Every alien was staring at the couple. They're going to mate, whispered Kay to Ront, but her whisper wasn't quiet enough. Is that what this is all about? Tom suddenly realized. You're all freaked out about human reproduction. The aliens looked at each other in panic. Captain Vix stepped forward, trying to control the situation, but it was too late. Wait till you hear how many babies they can have, shouted an alien officer who had been drinking human alcohol. Vix covered her face with her claws. The secret was out. The party room was completely silent. Humans stared at aliens. Aliens stared at humans. No one knew what to say after the drunken alien's outburst. Captain Vix finally broke the silence. Perhaps we should continue this discussion more formally, she said, her scales a deep blue of embarrassment. An hour later, human and alien leaders sat around a large table in the conference room. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. So, Tom said slowly, your entire species is upset because humans can reproduce anytime. Vix nodded stiffly. This ability is extremely rare in the galaxy. Among the 217 species in the Galactic Council, only 3 others can reproduce year-round. And why is this a problem? Lisa asked. Ront, the sociologist, answered. For most species, reproduction is strictly controlled by biology. We have specific mating seasons, usually once per year. This limits population growth naturally and shapes our entire culture. When we discovered that humans can mate at any time, Kay added, it was shocking. We didn't know how to process this information. Tom leaned back in his chair. So all this strange behavior, the staring, the avoiding, the whispering, was because you found out humans don't have mating seasons. Yes, Vix admitted. Some crew members saw it as frightening, others as fascinating. But why frightening? Asked Mary, still holding her engagement ring. Vix looked uncomfortable. The Council is concerned about your population growth potential. A species that can reproduce at will could potentially overwhelm the galaxy's resources if they spread to other planets. Tom laughed in disbelief. You think we're going to breed uncontrollably and take over the galaxy? That's why everyone's been acting so weird. It is not funny, Dr. Miller, Vix said firmly. The Council is considering a quarantine of Earth until we better understand your species. That stopped the laughter immediately. Quarantine. Lissa repeated. You mean isolate us from the rest of the galaxy? That's ridiculous. Kay's scales turned a gentle orange. Please understand. This is not just about reproduction. It's about how different you are from what we know. Your ability to mate any time has shaped your entire culture in ways we're only beginning to understand. Your art, your music, your literature, so much of it revolves around finding mates and forming bonds, Ront explained. For species with mating seasons, these activities occur only during specific times. The rest of the year, we focus on other things. Tom thought about this. So that's why you were so interested in human relationships. You're trying to understand how this biological difference affects our culture. Exactly, Vix said. But some council members believe this makes humans unpredictable and potentially dangerous. Lisa stood up, angry now. This isn't a weapon or a threat. It's just biology. And frankly, I'm surprised that advanced species like yours would react with such fear to something simply because it's different. The room went quiet again. Vix's scales shifted to a thoughtful green. You make a fair point, Dr. Reed, she said after a moment. Perhaps we have let our surprise cloud our judgment. What happens now? Tom asked. Vix tapped her claws on the table. The Council has requested a human delegation to speak before them. They want to hear directly from your species before making any decisions about Earth's status in the galactic community. And if we refuse, Lisa asked, then quarantine becomes much more likely, Vix said simply. Tom looked around at his fellow humans, then back at the aliens. We'll go. We'll explain. This is too important to let misunderstanding ruin it. As the meeting ended, a message arrived from the Galactic Council. Prepare transport for human representatives. Council hearing scheduled in 7 days. The journey to the Galactic Council took 3 days. Tom, Lisa, and 3 other humans traveled on the Asterisk, Seasonal Observer Asterisk, with Captain Vix and her crew. Despite the tension, the time together helped both sides understand each other better. On the 2nd day, Tom found Kay in the ship's observation room, looking at the stars. May I join you? He asked. Kay nodded, her scales a calm blue. I wanted to say I'm sorry for how we reacted to learning about human reproduction. It was unprofessional. Tom sat next to her. It's okay. I guess it would be shocking to learn something so basic about another species is completely different from what you know. In our culture, the mating season happens once a year and lasts about 2 weeks, Kay explained. It shapes everything. Our calendar, our social structure, our family units. The rest of the year, we focus on work, art, exploration. And humans seem chaotic to you because we're always thinking about relationships. Kay's scales turned slightly pink. Not chaotic, just intense. Always seeking mates, always forming bonds. Tom laughed. I never thought of it that way. They talked for hours. Kay explained how most galactic species evolved with strict seasonal reproduction to manage limited resources on their home planets. Tom described how human relationships worked, with their complexity and variety. I think I'm starting to understand humans better, Kay said as they parted. On the 3rd day, they arrived at the Galactic Hub, a massive space station where the Council met. It was enormous, with sections for each member species adapted to their specific needs. The humans gasped as they entered the main Council chamber. Hundreds of different alien species sat in rising rings around a central speaking platform. Some looked almost human. Others were completely different. Floating gas clouds, crystalline structures, or things that seemed made of light. There are so many, Lisa whispered. 217 member species, Vic said quietly, and many more non-voting associates. A tall alien with 6 limbs and silver skin called the meeting to order. We gather to discuss the species known as humans and their unusual reproductive biology, it announced in a musical voice. For the next hour, various council members voiced concerns about humans. Some feared rapid population growth if humans spread to other planets. Others worried about cultural contamination. A few even suggested that humans might be too unpredictable to join the galactic community. Finally, it was Tom's turn to speak. He walked to the center platform, his heart racing. Honored council members, he began, I understand your concerns about humans. Our ability to reproduce year-round is different from most species here, but this difference is not a threat. He explained how human population growth naturally stabilized with development, how birth rates actually fell as societies became more advanced, how humans had already recognized the need for sustainable growth on their own planet. Our reproductive biology has shaped human culture in unique ways, Tom continued. It has given us strong family bonds, complex social structures, and deep emotional connections, but it has not made us dangerous. Lisa joined him and shared data on human population trends. As you can see, despite our biological capacity for rapid growth, we naturally limit ourselves. A council member that looked like a giant insect spoke up. But what guarantees do we have that humans will maintain this restraint if given access to multiple planets? Tom thought carefully before answering. The same guarantee you have from any intelligent species, our ability to reason, to plan for the future, and to care about more than just ourselves. Judging us only by our reproductive biology ignores everything else about human civilization. The council chamber hummed with conversation as the members discussed Tom's words. We will consider your testimony, the silver alien said finally. The council will vote tomorrow on Earth's status. As they left the chamber, Vix approached Tom. You spoke well, she said. Perhaps there is hope. The humans barely slept that night. Their future in the galaxy depended on the council's vote. Tom paced in his room, wondering if he had said enough, if he had explained humans properly. Morning came, and they returned to the council chamber. It seemed even more crowded than before. News about the unusual humans had spread throughout the hub. The silver-skinned alien who led the council stood at the center. After much discussion, we are ready to vote on Earth's status in the galactic community. Tom held his breath. Lisa grabbed his hand. The question before us is whether humans should be quarantined due to their reproductive biology, or welcomed as full members of the galactic community. The voting took only minutes, with each species indicating their choice through their console. Tom watched the numbers change on the large display above. Finally, the count was complete. By a vote of 142 to 75, with some abstentions, the council has decided that Earth will now be quarantined. The silver alien turned to Tom. Humans are welcomed as probationary members of the Galactic Council, with full membership to be determined after a standard observation period of 5 Earth years. Tom let out the breath he had been holding. Lisa hugged him. The other humans cheered. Captain Vix approached them, her scales a bright, happy green. Congratulations. This is a historic day for both our peoples. Thank you for your help, Tom said. We couldn't have done this without your support. Vix nodded. I have learned much from this experience. We all have. Later, at a celebration held for the human delegation, Ront approached Tom with interesting news. You should know. The alien sociologist said, humans aren't as unique as we first thought. There are 3 other species in the council that can reproduce year-round. Really? Tom was surprised. Vix mentioned that, but why aren't they considered threats? They evolved different social controls. The Prill, for example, can only have 1 child in their lifetime. The Vontari require specific foods found only on their home world to reproduce. The Kujin have very long childhoods, nearly 50 years, which naturally limits their growth. Tom laughed. So we're not the reproductive monsters you thought we were. No, Runt admitted. And we've learned that biology isn't destiny. Your testimony showed us that intelligent beings can overcome their natural tendencies through culture and choice. As the party continued, Kay found Tom by the window. I have news, she said excitedly. I've been assigned as the permanent ambassador to Earth. That's wonderful, Tom said. We have so much more to learn from each other. Kay nodded. The Council is particularly interested in human adaptability. Your ability to control your reproduction through social means rather than biological ones could help other species facing population challenges. 3 weeks later, Tom stood with Captain Vix at the landing site where they had first met. The Asterisk seasonal observer Asterisk was preparing to leave, but many aliens would stay on Earth as part of the new cultural exchange program. It's strange, Tom said. Something we humans take completely for granted turned out to be so important. Vix looked thoughtful. That is often the way with different species. The things we never question about ourselves can be the most surprising to others. Tom watched as the alien crew made final preparations. What will you tell others about humans now? Vix's scales shifted to a warm orange. I will tell them that humans are different, yes. But difference doesn't mean danger. Sometimes it means new possibilities. As the ship rose into the sky, Tom thought about how something as simple as when species could mate had nearly kept humanity isolated from the galaxy. Instead, it had become the beginning of understanding. In the official Galactic Species Database, a new entry was added that day. Humans. Reproductive note. Year-round capability. Naturally controlled through social means. Exercise caution in cultural exchange, but recognize potential benefits of their adaptive approach.